Morning. That was good. That was good. I'm son of a jazz musician, so I thrive off call and response, the dialogue. First of all, before I even get started, I want to thank you for coming to my neighborhood. I live, if you go back out here, across Stanton Road, across the Suitland Parkway, I became an artist. I realized who I am as an artist in that place, in Wards 7 and 8. I was able to realize who I am as an artist. So thank you for being here, and I'm welcoming you to East of the River. I want to talk a little bit about poems, obviously, but more than that, I want to talk about the collaborative process of creating poems. I was just having a conversation with one of the volunteers, Joe, and he said, well, isn't poetry this solitary thing? And I was like, no. For me, in the way that I see it, is that the solitary moment is the charismatic moment that makes you write it down. But it's a collaborative process that all the other things that feed the life of that poem before you actually get to the paper and create. And so, for me, I've been tooling around with this for a little while, and I came up with what I call the 4 C's of collaboration, or the poetics of collaboration. And it's, as a poet, I wanted to deal with the alliteration, first of all, so they're all C words, and they all begin with C-O-M. So, without further ado, I'll just, compassion. The idea of compassion, I don't want it to sound so mushy, but the idea is that you want to approach your collaborators with humility. Be vulnerable. Be comfortable in not knowing. Go in with wonder. Because the reality is most poems fail. Most poems that we write as poets fail at what we think we want to say. We get close. Some of us that are really good poets that I really enjoy, that are really awesome, they get really close. But they often do fail in capturing the actual lived experience. Question, the other part of that C is to question your privilege, question your position, question where you're standing, because that's going to affect how you engage with this collaborative process in your partners. The other part of that is that there's a trust that's being built. The opening up yourself and being vulnerable builds a trust between your collaborators and those that are going to be your audience. The next C is communication, obviously, and they're building on each other here. I think hearing and listening are 2 different things. Hearing is a function of the mechanics of our body, the way our bodies function. You can hear something, like I just heard that person cough, or I can hear people whispering, but I can't really listen to them. I can't really digest what they're saying. I think there's a certain amount of humility and a certain amount of sensitivity, tuning to the ear, that active listening is a part of. Community. For me, like I said, I became my artistic self in this place. Really, from listening, from building this trust, reciprocity, giving and receiving, this dialogue that started between us as we started to talk about who we are and what we want to do with our art. Traveling to Northern Ireland has been a super eye-opener for me, because I had no frame of reference for what was going on there, and so I had to be quiet, I had to listen, I had to trust that there was a connection there that was beyond language, that was beyond religion, that was beyond politics. And so that sense of community, I think we built a strong sense of community with my collaborators that really cemented who we are and is moving us forward in this long-term project. And then commitment. Commitment is the follow-through. That's the thing that really cements the trust that you've been building over as you've been implementing these other pillars of collaboration. The commitment that says, I'm here, I'm present. Whenever we're communicating, whenever we're talking about our ideas, I'm 100% present. A lot of the work that I've been doing with Northern Irish photographers and visual artists has been, some of it has been in person, but some of it has been online through Skype and through phone. But even with that distance, even with the distance of Skype and phone, because of the trust in the relationships that we've built, building these other 4 C's, we can talk like old friends. And so even though I'm not in Belfast, I usually try to get there once a year. Even though I'm not physically there, because of those pillars that we've built, we're able to move forward and continue to grow this process. So the 3 poems, I'm gonna read 3 poems for you. One is called Song for Anacostia. And from a collaborative standpoint, with respect to these 4 C's, all 4 of them are at work, but the 2 that I really think are most at work are compassion and the community. When I moved to Anacostia, I had no frame of reference. I didn't think that I was all that radically different from anybody there. But what I did learn is that I had to check my privilege at the door, and that was also a preconceived notion, that I wasn't any different. I was the same as everyone else there, and so it did. Those are 2 of the things that are active in that poem. The next poem is a poem that I wrote while doing a teaching residency at St. Mary's College of Maryland, and that was more about me, again, about community, questioning my position, who I am in this space, and how I'm altered by the space, and how the space is altered by my presence. And the last poem is called For the Letter H, and that comes out of an experience that I had, some knowledge that I had living and working in Belfast, Northern Ireland, but it also gave me the opportunity to, again, work at community, commitment, compassion. I think that poem for me is working all 4 C's simultaneously. And it also gave me the opportunity to be objective and to talk about a very contentious issue without choosing a side. So, Song for Anacostia. And I'll pause a little bit after each poem just to give you some time to digest. Song for Anacostia. 2 notes about this poem. The 94 is a bus. If you walk straight up 18th Street, the 94 is a bus that'll take you from here, from this part of town, to the Anacostia Metro. And the 90, if you've spent any time in DC around U Street or Adams Morgan or Friendship Heights, you've seen the 90 bus come from Friendship Heights and ends here in Anacostia. Song for Anacostia. The 94 hums up the rough side of Stanton. Open windows blare drums in the pocket, the breakdown of a perfect DC groove, Washington's solo view. The 90 salsas into the forgotten bottom of Washington, D.C. A car alarm echoes its protest on MLK. 2 porch griots wailing their pain and pity. On the corner, 2 preachers can be heard through sanctuary walls, one reading scripture, the other raptured in a moan. The smell of last night's drink poured out in a crooning ballad for the missed and the missing. A song for a father. A song for a mother unchilded. A song for a child playing ahead of the beat. A nursery rhyme for every teddy bear rooted at a street sign. This is the sound of the blues breaking the broken back together. The sound of chaos organizing. The sound of breath forming words in the vinyl's backspin. These are the sounds gathered in blood, shed for the remission of silence and sadness. The next poem I'm going to read is called The Sound of St. Mary's City. And there are three poets that went into the creation of this poem that are instrumental in the creation of this poem. It's Dr. Michael Glaser, he was the last poet laureate of Maryland, the state of Maryland, Sekou Sundiata, and Lucille Clifton, who is the patron saint of all things poetry in Maryland. And this poem is about engaging yourself in a different way when you're out of the context in which you see yourself. I'm a city guy. Even though I grew up in a small suburb, a lot of my life has been spent in cities, and so I carry that with me, even when I don't need to, and this poem is about challenging that notion. What does my DC bop and sway mean in the quiet rhythms of this place? The river swinging into its banks the same way for the last billion years. Every tree standing its ground, keeping time like a slow walking bass line. And what said the slim country road, but a slow muted, slow what to my sidewalk swagger. Here, the soundtrack to my cityfied pomp and swagger is swallowed by the song of every blade of grass bending to the wind's breath. My stone-faced stillness rippled away like a pebble, kissing a pond in the wilderness. And the last poem I'm going to read is for the letter H. As many of you know, there's Northern Ireland has had some troubled past, and I put that lightly. There's some of our residents, artist residents, are here in the audience, and I'm going to check with them about how they feel about this poem after I'm done. But the letter H was often used as a test to see, because people spoke differently, were taught to speak differently and develop different accents based on where they were from. Letter H was used as a way to decide, for anyone to decide where you were from and who you were. And so, for the letter H. In the American mouth, sometimes you are a shadow, silent, obedient, knowing your place, an accomplice in language's empire. When leading, you are a turncoat, the hard exhale of hatred, and the disguise you wear in human. You shapeshift in hunger. In Belfast, the sound you make is a fortress, a wall of whispers, a factory that makes martyrs and murals. I listen for the difference between H and H and ponder the weight of blood in a single breath, a single syllable. Thank you for listening to my poems. I hope that what I've said and what I've shared kind of gives some meat to this, to somewhat abstract idea of the collaborative process. These poems could not have happened without all of the experiences, without all of the people, without all of the interactions that I've had. And so as I said, even though it's just me sitting at my laptop or with my journal, the collaborative process, the trust that I've built, the exchanges that I've had have gone into these poems, and I hope that was illuminated a little bit here today. And I hope it challenges you all to go out there in the world and everything that you do and find a little bit of poetry. Thank you very much.